want you to think back to a time where you struggled with a task or a job, and perhaps you tried and tried and tried, and let's say maybe you couldn't get it done. You couldn't complete the task or job, but you realized later that if you had adopted a different way, if you did things a little differently, then you would have found success. You would have been able to complete whatever it was that you were trying to do. Now, I'm no mechanic by any means, but I oftentimes convince myself when it comes to working on vehicles that, I bet I could do that. And it has happened plenty of times that I go to attempt to do something and I struggle and struggle and struggle, only to realize later that there was a better way. And if I had pursued that better way, then I had a much more high probability of getting that job done. Ecclesiastes chapter 10, verse 10 shares similar advice with us when it comes to using wisdom. And it compares wisdom to sharpening an axe. Ecclesiastes 10:10 says, "If the axe is dull and one does not sharpen its edge, then one must exert more strength." And so the first part of the verse describes a situation where somebody's using an axe and the axe is dull. And if you've ever used an axe to chop wood, you know that can lead to a lot of frustration because the job just doesn't go as smoothly or as well, and you really do have to exert a lot more energy to try to chop the wood. You can chop much more wood and do it much more efficiently if you sharpen the axe. It's also interesting because oftentimes there are visual cues that tell us that an axe is dull. And so you can look at the axe and say, I bet that needs to be sharpened. And so the unwise situation compounds itself because you can look at the axe and say, that needs to be sharpened, and yet sometimes you may try to use it anyway. But then, of course, that doesn't always go well for you. But then, of course, as you're using it, you will tell or be able to tell if that axe is dull. But then Ecclesiastes 10:10 goes on to say that wisdom is like that. The advantage of wisdom, it says, is that it brings success. And so much like using a sharp axe and chopping wood, using wisdom in your life can oftentimes lead to being able to do things much more efficiently, having a much greater success rate with the things that you're doing in your life. And so even more so, if we understand wisdom as being something that comes from God, that He imparts wisdom to us, how could it be any different? When we're adopting God's wisdom and His way of doing things, how could we be anything but successful? Maybe not successful in the world's eyes, but certainly successful in God's eyes. And so don't get caught wearing yourself out with a dull axe in life, of struggling with things and not adopting wisdom. Exercise God-given wisdom in your life and trust Him to give you success.